So again, we are sending.
Bueno, de nuevo, estamos enviando. Se me perdió el señal.
You have the pointer? Or did I lose it somewhere? Sorry. Okay, again, please send the file to Christine. We will check it, and tomorrow we will discuss the outcomes. We will also double check our assumptions. As I said, this was the first time we played this game, so you are kind of a guinea pigs. But the purpose was not only to be correct, but actually to force you to look into this file, because I could assume some of you wouldn't normally. And just to, oh, you have it. Thanks. Thanks. The cards, yeah, we will later on correct. So I have the pointer. So the purpose was that you go into this file and actually see that this is not so complicated. Have in mind that normally we are not playing a game, right? So we don't have so many emissions that are concerning the same energy consumption. So for example, air conditioning, lighting, heat pump, electricity consumption, it would be one number, right? Because you have 1 meter. So you put it into the file in the electricity consumption and you have the emissions, that's it. For the purpose of the game, where we wanted to do mitigation, we wanted to split it. So we kind of made it a little bit complicated, more complicated, right? But in reality, as I said, electricity is one number for you typically, right? So we were talking about mitigation actions. We actually went through this part of this process that is now shown on the slide. But let's go from the beginning. And again, I want to underline what it's like with the scope 1, 2, and 3. We need to understand that the support of senior management to do any mitigation actions is needed, right? Because at the end of the day, you will be spending some money, and mitigation actions sometimes can actually influence and increase efficiency of operations of the company. Sometimes they just reduce the costs, and the management need to kind of manage, strategically the investments, since they are working with a limited budget, right? And then we kind of do the task of carbon accounting that we did for the during the game, and we are able to define which of the sources are producing the most CO2 emissions, and then we check what are the potential costs to mitigate these emissions, right? As we did during the game, and then we need to decide what's more efficient, what provides more tons of CO2 per euro spent, and at the same time is in line with any strategic kind of planning of the company, right? Because you can obviously refurbish a building, which will save a lot of energy, but if the plan is that the building will be demolished next year, or I don't know, maybe sold, maybe refurbishing of the building might not be top of the priority, right? And at the end of the day, it will not save you so much emissions, because it will be saving for 1 year only before the sales, yeah? So we need to do these considerations when considering what mitigation actions to choose. And at the same time, a lot of companies establish targets of emission reductions. Of course, you can always say just out of the sky, we will reduce 20% over next year or two. But if this information is not an educated decision, you might get into problems, right? That's why starting with a base year, as we did during round one, and understanding what are the emission sources is so important, right? Because you might be in a situation where you have a very modern building, where you're already driving electric cars, right? And in general, your scope 1 and 2 emissions are all fine. And then if you say we are reducing 20%, there might be no mitigation actions that really make sense in terms of financial, right? In terms of financial, right? I mean, there might be a situation where you already have a building, you have PVs on the roof, and the only way to reduce electricity might be buying some offset credits, right? So all these needs to be considered before you decide on targets on scope 1 and 2 of your organization. And then when we move to scope 3, so mostly, let's say, the portfolio of a financial institution, right? Making also a statement that we'll be reducing emissions from our portfolio by a certain amount should also be done in an educated way. You need to understand your clients, whether these are companies or other banks, right? What are their portfolio, so that you don't get set up too ambitious goals or goals that are too easy to achieve. Although the second one is kind of a nice one, right? Because we set up a goal, we achieve it, and everyone is happy, right? And maybe for the first time, it's a good way to go, and in most cases, actually, most cases are actually easy. I mean, in terms of energy savings or greening the portfolio, a lot of banks just focus on PVs, finance a lot of PVs, and then they green the portfolio, right? Or do electric cars, right? So these are typically treated as the low-hanging fruits for the banks to green the portfolios, and they might be one of the first products, as I at least see, amongst many banks. But then you go into manufacturing industry, and then it gets a little bit more complicated. Requesting your clients to get more green is a little bit more challenging for them, for you. There needs to be a discussion, capacity building on their side. They need to understand how much and how they can save energy. So my kind of main message when it comes to target setting is that this needs to be really educated decisions rather than just guessing on or following the, just out of the blue 30%, right? What are the carbon reduction strategies? So you saw on the mitigation cards. And again, I want to repeat, before you start to invest in renewable energy, typically I'm talking about a company, right? When I work with the companies, production companies, for example, I tell them, before you start to think about renewable energy, please think about energy efficiency, because the moment you reduce energy consumption, right? The moment you reduce energy consumption, it means you need less energy, which will impact the size of renewable energy system that you need to buy, right? So not only you invested in efficient equipment, maybe thanks to this also high quality products, you produce high quality products, but you also will save on PVs, let's say. You understand that, right? So that's why energy efficiency is always on top. But it's theoretical situation. In fact, most of the companies, first thing that they do, they invest in PVs. It's not optimal, as I said, but it is being done. But from the kind of logical point of view, engineering point of view, energy efficiency should be the first thing we think about. And then we think about the supply chain, about waste reduction, right? So typically, I also sometimes go with the engineers that I work with for a walkthrough audit. We go to some companies and we just walk around and just point where they are wasting energy and money. Yeah, a very good example when it comes to production companies. I don't know how often do you go to some production facilities. Very kind of significant thing is you hear this in production companies. Most of them use compressed air, and they have pipes which leak the compressed air, and this is the sound of money going away. And only reducing the leakages in the pipes save a lot of energy, and then investment in the compressed air also will save, air compressor will also save energy. And such a walkthrough audit will show a lot of these examples, yeah? Wasting water, I told you about the guy with the cigarette, right, with the meat production. Wasting energy, you know, heaters turn off, you don't know why, maybe lighting turn off somewhere that nobody needs it. Just a walkthrough audit. You don't need a senior engineer, you know, very sophisticated person, just a person with a basic understanding of technologies. Walk through the facilities and you can already point out where they can save money. And this will also generate the need for investments. And this is where the business of the banks come in, right? So as I was saying, when it comes to scope 1, energy efficiency, renewable, waste reduction, whether it's solid, liquid waste, you know, whether it's water waste, in some cases also reduce of methane emissions, depending on the type of the company. And of course, a big thing, which is increase fuel efficiency of transportation. And whether it's transportation by own vehicles, just driving around the town, meeting with the clients, or whether it's a production facility where they have forklifts and some other means of, let's say, local transport. Also, this is a place where a lot of savings can be done, because typically the companies use forklifts until they break apart. They don't, until the forklift kind of works, they use it. And then only then they are considering a new one. So I can bet you most of the companies that you would go have like 20 years old forklifts that are very inefficient. Yeah. Then scope 2, of course, scope 2. This is where, well, first of all, scope 2 emissions you can reduce by investing in. You know, using less electricity, right? So about your building, about your facility, but also you can purchase green energy, right? At the end of the day, and many companies go this way, just purchasing green energy from the utility company. It's also a solution that might work, but as I said, it's better first to save energy and then start to purchase the green energy. And scope 3, of course, the scope 3 emissions will differ a lot between a bank and a production facility. For a bank, it's greening the portfolio mostly, right? For a production facility, it's actually much more focusing on supply chain, on commuting, transport, about leasing low greenhouse gas emitting assets, choosing low greenhouse gas transport for your products, also choosing some products that are or sub-products for your production that are more green, recycled, biodegradable products, for example. And also at the end of the day, also more and more subject that is touched more and more when it comes to production of products is also planning for product recycling. So that we don't end up with landfills full of waste, right? Just looking at the time, because we would like to finish before 5 o'clock, right? It's already the 9th hour of our training. So as I said, some of the slides are here for you to read later. This is just a recap of the opportunities, amongst others, taken from the TCFD. You remember from the first day, right? The nice graph with the risks and opportunities. So this is exactly it. If you want to come back to this after the training, please do. This is just ideas on where you can look for savings. When it comes to challenges, the biggest challenge is always the knowledge, the capacities of the institutions, and this is where I personally do a lot of work, whether it's on such trainings or when I do green facilities in some countries. We actually start with awareness raising, first of all in banks, and we talk with the banks about concrete technologies, concrete sectors. You will see tomorrow how we approach a new bank that wants to get green, how we do portfolio review and so on. We define the sectors and we talk really about concrete technologies, concrete solutions. And this way, we kind of raise the awareness about what can be considered green and what can reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. So the awareness raising goes about internal, so inside the bank, inside the company, and external when it comes to vendors, suppliers, or your clients, let's say, right? Another issue that I observe in some countries, that there is a limited availability of expertise. This is where we, together with Frankfurt, we do a lot of projects actually in countries where the local experts are either already having a lot of work and they are just not available, or actually there is very limited amount of people. And a very significant country a few years ago was Tajikistan. I remember Frankfurt School went through a lot of troubles to find even junior engineers that could work with the banks on energy efficiency. Oh, this was climate resilience projects. Yeah, so that's why we had to bring international experts. The local ones got trained during the project, and finally we built the capacities. Another big challenge is availability of solutions, availability of technologies, right? So, of course, if there is no demand for high efficiency heat pump in a country, we can assume nobody sells it, right? So this is where it becomes a little bit challenging when you go to your clients, let's say, to an SME, to a corporate, say, oh, okay, could you buy the modern heat pump? And they say, where? And we say abroad. And then say, oh no, that's too complicated for us, right? So that's why one of the types of facilities that serve the purpose of greenhouse gas emission reduction are green trade facilitation programs, where the banks support the import of high-performing technologies into a given country, right? So there are the letters of credit and so on, kind of connection between two banks, securing the payments, and so on. Another problem is availability of vendors and services of the product, because we can obviously buy the most modern heat pump, but if there's no service in the country, the company most likely will say we don't want to buy it, because if it breaks, we don't have anyone to fix it, right? So this is also very important. An example that we are dealing now in a few countries in MENA region is the cooling technologies. People would even like to buy modern, high-efficient cooling technologies. In some cases, they are actually shortly forced because of the phase-out of some refrigerants. But first of all, some of these modern refrigerants are not yet there. I'm thinking about Jordan, for example. There is no service, right? So there's a lot of work to do around that. Another challenge is affordability of the solutions. That I think this is clear. I don't need to explain it. Availability of funds, but of course, this is where the multilateral banks and in general banks come to serve the clients, to provide the funds. And the last challenge is weak regulations, but this can be overcome by using the international standards, right? One of the sectors where we do see some challenges when the regulation is not there is actually real estate, buildings, construction. Because if there is no proper building code in the country, which requires providing U values for the windows, lambda values for insulation, and so on, then you can assume that you will not be able to buy an insulation that has a lambda value, which is an indicator of energy efficiency at the end of the day. Yeah, and the same with the windows. I was shocked when I went into a few countries. But basically, if there is no regulation about expectations towards energy efficiency of the window, the vendors just sell windows, and you don't know whether it's efficient or not. In some countries, we are happy if this is a 3-pane window or 2-pane window even, right? But even if this is a 2-pane window, even if it's filled with air inside, it's more efficient than 1-pane window. But for the purpose of greenhouse gas emission reduction calculations, you actually have to know how efficient the window is. It cannot be just a window with 2 panes. I assume you understand what is 2-pane window, right? Oh, okay, sorry. 2-pane window is a window like here. You have 2 glasses, and there's a void in between. Excuse me? Excuse me?
Like in the airplane.
Well, yeah, I mean a little bit like in the in the airplanes, but a better example is over here. You see two glasses, and there is a void in between, and the void in between typically is filled with a gas, whether it's argon or another one. But in some countries it's even air, but still it decreases amount of energy that goes through the window. And this is called 2-pane window because it has 2 glasses, and there are now also 3-pane windows because we have 1, 2, 3 glasses. Yeah, we call it panes. Okay, so that's one of the examples. We went through this process of setting up the report, reviewing the emissions, considering what would be the best mitigation action, and this is just for you as a roadmap, just to jumpstart your kind of already mitigation actions, right? So you can go back to it after the training. Are there any questions? And in the meantime, I would like to ask Mr. Technician to put another session. And this will be the last session. I will I will try to keep it brief because I can see everyone are tired, right? Do you have any questions? No? Okay. Do we have the presentation?
But I would have a reminder, and we are waiting still for the group. Still one, because the file was not correct, but you know, group 2, 3, to send me the file. Do you have my... Where's group 2? Ah.
The pointer doesn't work. Oh, it works, great. Ah. Do you have the next session? Okay, great. Don't get scared, we keep it brief. Reporting and communication. So, as I said, we will be repeating some principles so that you can remember about them. I don't want to be a source of greenwashing. I don't want to be accused that I trained someone in a bad way. So I need to repeat. You need to do the report that is relevant for your company, that is complete, consistent, transparent, and accurate, right? Relevant means it's about you, your emissions, right? Complete is that you don't omit any emissions, you don't report on half of the buildings that you have, right? Consistent, year to year, we use the same approach. I think you did encounter some issues with being consistent between the round 1 and round 2 emission game, right? So you can see importance about being consistent, having the same approach. Transparency is about providing the proper sources of factors and so on. You can actually download the greenhouse gas protocol Excel. No, even the one that we shared with you has the disclaimers, have the factors. You can see that it's also designed to be transparent, right? And the accuracy is about being as accurate as possible. So when it comes to report structure, I did show you some basic report structure kind of suggested by greenhouse gas protocol. So let's look into some details here. So first of all, we do the introduction. So we talk about general information about the financial institution or the organization that is reporting. We explain the purpose of the report, greenhouse gas emission report. And then we move into the scope of reporting. So we define against which scopes you will be reporting. You list the sources of emissions. And then in the third point, you provide information, greenhouse gas emission information, right? And then we move to methodology and calculation. So you say which methodology you are using. You add up the sources according to the different scopes. You apply proper emission factors, and then aggregate the emissions into one, right? And I think I said it to some of the groups, but I want to explain it during the session as well. The Excel of the GHG protocol, if you download it, because we did modify it for the purpose of the game, a little bit, we modified the tabs. If you download the pure clean Excel, you will have a reporting tab there that already provides you with scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions. So the steps that you were taking during the game, applying the scope number to the actions, the Excel actually does it automatically for you, right? So we did that only for the purpose of education. So at the end, the Excel also produces the result and metrics. And by the way, we also had this presentation of this great tool that is being developed, which is, I guess, more user-friendly than the Excel itself. It has a little bit more functionalities, and it's easier to edit. So at the end, such tools provide also kind of reporting format, let's say. I mean, the results in a metric format. Then in your report, you need to analyze what you just calculated, right? What's the conclusions of the emissions that you calculated? And you need to recognize the risks that we were talking about, both the transitional risk and physical risks, point out any weak places in your institution, in your portfolio. You know, you might have some coal-related companies in your portfolio, and you need to kind of say what you will do with that. Many of the financial institutions just disinvest from these companies, right? Especially given if you're in a country where the coal is going away from the energy mix. So of course you also, so you point out the weak spots, and then you can discuss the mitigation strategies. And of course you need to disclose all the assumptions, verification information, and so on. And at the end, it's also great to provide some targets, some plans for future improvements, to reduce your greenhouse gases, but also to improve the reporting. For example, you know that you used some less accurate data, and you might state that next year you will work on making the data more accurate. Right? So, of course, as an institution, you need to get to know what is required when it comes to GHG reporting. But typically, of course, besides the basic information, assumptions, and so on, you would the companies would report on scope 1 and 2. And the scope 3 typically would be optional. However, we live in a very fast-changing regulatory environment, and in many places, the scope 3 emissions become slowly also required to be reported. Another thing that I will repeat the last time for these 3 days is no double counting. Please don't account for the same emissions twice, because it makes you look worse. And especially, please don't account twice for the same emission reductions. This would be pure, double counting, right? Where it might happen for the financial institution is when you're financing companies that buy heat pumps, let's say, right? And you account for the scope 3 emissions, right? And then, but at the same time, you're providing finance to the vendors, let's say trade facilitation, you do, right? To bring the heat pumps to the country. And the same heat pumps, you help to import, you finance the stock of the vendor, and then you finance to company that will be the end user, right? So you cannot account twice for the emissions, right? And this is a real case. I mean, I work in one green facility where we have both vendor support and support to the end users, and we went through this discussion. And obviously, we didn't do any double counting. Yes? Well, actually, the discussion didn't yet end, but I am opting to report on emissions of the end user, not the vendor. The donor has a different idea. But this is because of other issues. But of course, we will not be doing any double counting. They might consider splitting it somehow, but this is a little bit above my pay grade. I just advise them to focus on the end users. They want to consider different approach, and we will see what will be the outcome. Of course, if you have a good report, it's good to brag a little bit. Of course, not with a 100-page document, because nobody will really read unless he needs. But you saw the Santander values. Also, we had the panel where some institutions showed their reporting. You choose the good-looking numbers, and you can actually promote, increase your brand value as a green bank, as a green company, and kind of build business around that at the end of the day, right? And also, in general, for the kind of economy purposes, for the greening the economy purposes, for the increasing the country resilience in general, the more companies are talking about doing the reporting and I mean talking about their reports, right? Greenhouse gas reports, the more people know about it, yeah? And you, by doing the reporting, will kind of impact your peers that are not doing it yet, right? You will also be impacting your clients. So this is also about education and awareness raising, yeah? I will show you just briefly, because we did have a very good examples today during the panel on reporting. So I will not go through all of these examples that I have prepared for you. But you can later on look into them, maybe even Google them and read the whole reports or, bigger parts. So one of the, let's say, real world sustainability reports examples that I like is the cooperation between multilateral development banks, the joint report of the multilateral development banks. In general, Mr. Mustafa did mention the common principles, right? So the MDBs have their common principles that are defining what the MDBs see as green when it comes to their financing. And then they also report jointly. Yes? You have... it's missing calf? But I did download it from the website. Sorry, to be honest, this image it's a good point. I'm really... Is it? MDBs, yeah, so... Okay, so you need to ask to be added to these logos because it's actually added as a one set of logos.
I just was kidding, but we are providing information for the development of the report.
Reach out to them.
Started as a joke, but now I'm a little bit worried about why our logo isn't appearing.
This is taken from the report. I will check today if it's the latest report, okay? Because maybe it's because I use this, I copy this image all the time.
Let's keep the comment as a joke.
No, okay, no. If you're doing reporting, we need to take care of it, right?
Yeah, I think that we have two reports, in fact, provided each year from the IDFC from one side and MDBs on the other side. And these reports are used to be what are the contribution of the national and the multilateral development banks to the 100 billion dollars that are on the UNFCCC price agreement. And I think that we cannot have the same information in both reports. Otherwise, we will have a double counting.
Yeah.
So this, I think that we have only one. Yes, we cannot be in the two reports.
It might be the case. So you might be providing information, but you also say, by the way, we are reporting in another report, and they just don't include it here. But I don't know the case.
Mustafa, just to be sure that I'm understanding correctly what you are saying, we can participate in as IDFC members and as MDB members in the reporting. That's your point. We have to appear in one of those reports, but okay, understood.
Yeah, Mr. Mustafa touched a very important thing, the 100 billion goal, right? If we say we provided €1 million and we reported twice in different sources, then we are left, with just double counting, right? But I will check what's that about. So they do provide information about their green finance by type of the finance. Also, you can see separate institutions providing information. So you can, if you're interested, how does this report look in details? I'm just showing you the numbers a little bit, right? Also over time. You can Google this report; it's obviously publicly available. Then you also have these the banks that inform in a separate way about their scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. One of them is EBRD. And they do kind of promote themselves, talk about how much green energy they finance, how much renewables they finance, and so on, right? And as I said, I will not be going into these details, but you can look into these reports, see how they are structured, how they are providing the numbers. You can kind of assess which kind of even format is kind of easy for you to read. For example, for me, this table is kind of too much. It's hard to read, right? But there are different ways of communicating the reports that you can do. This is much more accessible for people, right? The graphs. So these were the MDBs. This is the BNP Paribas. They are already reporting for a few years, and I think it's really worth to look into the BNP Paribas report. It's nicely structured, and it already has kind of consistently reporting for a few years. And there are also examples from South America, right? So the key takeaways of the sessions that I was providing today. Yes, Christine?
Yeah, amazing. Also, like that everyone is really still staying after
Yes.
a really incredible long day.
We are very grateful. Maybe everyone is waiting for the bus. We start a little late tomorrow.
Actually, they
The
told
bus
us
will be later,
the
right?
pickup service will be tomorrow at 7:30.
Yes, 10 minutes.
10 minutes later.
Great.
So, because they said based on the traffic, it should work out. So, just as a reminder, some people who are leaving in the evening, you should inform them whether you want to go back after the event to the hotel. So, just check out and leave your luggage in the hotel so that they organize the pickup service from the hotel to the airport, or whether you want to take your luggage with you here and go from here to the airport. So just talk. But I don't know what we decided.
Hello. What we decided is that it's better that everyone that is leaving tomorrow checkouts tomorrow morning, brings the luggage here, and we'll leave here to the airport. Okay? And we have some room to put all the luggage. And actually, we have an update for the pickup tomorrow before the event. We said 7:30.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Already everyone
7:30.
was happy.
But then we have to really to be on time. And everyone who is leaving in the evening for the airport, take your luggage with you. Look for this lovely lady. And for all IDFC members, we are really a bit earlier in time, but at 5, the bus is waiting outside for exactly. So I think first, really thanks very much
Yeah, we can
for
close
being
up for
like
today.
the guinea pigs. We already know the results, but we will just tell them tomorrow for this ceremony. We will combine it. Makes it more.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we keep like the surprise.
Let's not spoil the evening.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we want to survive.
Yeah.
So you have.
Can I ask you? Is the game? Did you like it? Did it bring value for you? Mechanics of the game.
I'd like to take it apart, the back end, have a look at it, and then I'll be happy.
So I can tell you, when it comes to the savings and the costs, there are rough figures. So because we kind of came up with the idea of the game quite recently to make the training more interesting, so I just used some rough figures from some case studies of projects that I did. But some of them might not fit perfectly together. But the game was about you using the Excel file rather than exact, tons of CO2. Understand? That's a different story, right? So, you have some comment?
Yeah. Instructions could have been more better.
Excuse me. Instructions. Yes, we understood that already.
And some options like second and third, like either or, using both.
Yes.
So those were missing.
Yes.
We already fixed some of the cuts, but really, also you can just send us or tell us, because we would really like to improve.
It was the third time the game was played. First one was me doing fast. Second was Christine with her children. And this is the third time. So each time the game got better, and the next time it will be even better. But I really hope we achieve this goal, that you kind of looked into it and understood also it's not so complicated as it might seem.
So for the IDFC members, we are meeting outside. So enjoy some minutes to take some fresh air.